For more on this story, we're now joined by, from the capital Nairobi, Kenyan journalist Gorden Osen. Gordon, appreciate your time this evening. Can you provide an overview of the recent clashes between the police and the demonstrators in Kenya over the high cost of living and certainly those tax hikes?
Thank you very much, my brother. The situation in Nairobi and Kenya generally remains tense because of the anticipated escalation of the anti-government, anti-hike tax protests. The protest this time around on Wednesday was widespread beyond the capital in Nairobi. There was the protests were in Mombasa, were in Eastern Province, places that ordinarily would not see Azimio supporters are protesting whenever they are called upon to protest by Raila Odinga. But yesterday they were more vicious, they were more widespread, and they were more determined because the pain the Kenyans are feeling due to the high taxes. And what is making it worse is the fact that there is an active court order that has countermanded, though temporarily, the Finance Act, the provisions which is the instrument of revenue-raising measures. The government has gone ahead to increase the VAT, the 16% double in the fuel, the petrol, diesel, and the rest, and that has a snowball effect because it again affects the price of the cost of transportation, the cost of food production, and many other things. So Kenyans are feeling that this government, the Ruto government, which campaigns the platform of the rule of law, is actually sustaining what the Uhuru Kenyatta administration, the culture of impunity, which was disrespect to court orders, the shameful display of impunity, and they are feeling the pain. Everybody's feeling the pain. And so we saw the protest even in the regions that were supporting the president and his deputy, places like rural counties like Nyeri, in Murang'a, and Murang'a counties, in Laikipia, Nanyuki, in Eldoret, which is the bastion.
Well, Gordon, allow me to come in a minute. Obviously,
yes,
a number of questions that we'd like to ask you and get your opinion on. Now, let's talk about the use of excessive force. This obviously is a fluid story. At the time that we reported, there were 6 deaths. Is the number still at 6? Has the number of casualties increased? And is part of this upsurge in violence a result of the heavy-handedness of the police?
By this evening, the official government count is 9 fatalities, but by independent media outlets, the numbers shot beyond 10. It's I think around 13 or 15 people who have been declared dead, and there's so many injuries. People are nursing injuries at home and in hospitals, and of course many others that have not been accounted for. The violence, people are claiming their claims and counterclaims because it's a political argument and political theater. So the opposition is claiming that the government has goons who are not police officers in plain clothes but are armed to target specific, the opposition supporters. But then there are also police officers who are uniformed but who are shown by the national media for using excessive force. But again, you also blame protesters because some of them go into the protest with the aim of looting, with the aim of destroying public property, with the aim of targeting those who are not into the protest. So the police has a responsibility to respond to protect those who do not have an interest in getting engaged in the protest. So it's kind of a balance, but the police has a higher responsibility. And in Kenya here, by operation of law, we have a body called IPOA, the Independent Police Oversight Authority, which has announced a probe, because the law requires that for every round of ammunition fired, the police must provide a written report explaining the circumstances within which they fired any round and give a reason why life was lost or an injury was visited on any civilian or anything that transpired from there.
Now, Gordon, you raise the issue of Raila Odinga, and he's the main opposition figurehead, if you will. Now, are we able to separate the two issues? One, the agitation that has been created by Raila Odinga. We know that this is the second or third set of protests this year alone that Raila Odinga has fueled against the dissatisfaction or the discontentment of the people of Kenya.
Yes, you can, but also you cannot, because before he called for the protests, no one came out to protest, in a significant manner that could catch the attention of the government. So Raila Odinga is a private citizen, so to speak, but he's a very powerful person. So his interest, they find a way of marrying his interest with that of the tapping into the discontent that is widespread, given by the harsh economic times. So it is sometimes sounds like splitting hairs. If you want to split to separate the interest of the leadership of Raila Odinga from the outpouring discontent among the Kenyan people, given the high cost of living.
Now, Gordon, you've talked about the impunity of the Kenyan government, because obviously a court ruling has been passed, and they've still gone ahead and raised the taxes as they have. Do you get the impression that the Kenyan government will not stop, will not backtrack, and that they will do whatever they can to stifle these protests?
Currently, the court ruling was it's a temporary conservatory order, so the case is still going on. Actually, the High Court forwarded the file to the Chief Justice to empanel a bench of 3 judges to hear the merits of the case to determine. So I think at some point the government will have to tone down, because it can be used against them when the case is being canvassed on the merits and the demerits, because the petitioners can say that even as we speak, the government should be cited for contempt because they have not observed the orders that the court have issued initially and again confirmed. But that is on one limb. The other limb is that the opposition has said that next week they are calling on the protest for Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. So if just on one day, on Wednesday, we are still feeling the heat of it, just imagine if it goes for any more day, if it runs on Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. So I think at some point, something will have to give. And I think the government will have to come down from its high horse and realize that the stability of Kenya is such a strategic country in the Horn region and the East and Central Africa, even to allow political hybrids. And I think, if you allow me, just to add, currently, the Ruto administration is barely 9 months in office, so they're still, if you like, in the honeymoon stages. But I think as the intensity of the protest continue and the discontent, even to the regions that they never thought was Azimio region, at some point I think something will have to give, and I think they will have to negotiate a way out of this. We include climbing down from the headline.
Well, Gordon, you talk about
the law.
You talk about a climb down, but the real issue is the amount of debt that the Kenyan government finds itself under. The debt burden is massive. And this is President William Ruto's attempt, and certainly his government's attempt, to mitigate that burden, if you will. Now, are there options that the Kenyan government has not looked into? When Raila Odinga encourages the people of Kenya to go out onto the streets, does he offer options?
Yes. Let me just make a brief comment on the issue of debt. It is increasingly becoming a controversial discussion here in Kenya, because there are people, the Auditor General, the constitutional office holder who is charged with the responsibility of auditing government books of account, have said that there is no available record of public debts in our country. So to speak, she's saying that she's agreeing with a senior senator who actually brought the petition that has now suspended the finance bill, who said that by his investigation, by some other independent auditors, Kenya has paid up its debts. So the payment that is still continuing, for which you're being taxed, this is questionable. So I think the option that Raila is offering, one of them, and I don't know whether it's credible or not, it's for everybody to judge, but he's saying that in the meantime, there's need for palliative intervention, which include subsidies, because the Ruto administration removed subsidies on food, subsidies on fuel. So he's calling for return of the subsidies, even as the situation normalizes gradually.
So you're suggesting, or these parliamentarians or the Auditor General, as you've said, is implying that the Kenyan government have come up with this idea of taxing the people to pay off a debt that in actual fact does not exist.
Yes, the Auditor General said that there's no public record. The government book of account does not show that we have public debt mounting to the trillions that you're being told every other day. So that means, the theories that go on, because I will call them conspiracy theories right now because they've been formalized, is that some of this taxation, the money that is being used for paying debts, are leaving our coffers to private individuals, to pockets. And they are often citing the Mozambican situation, the model that we need to audit the public debts and declare them odious debts if they do not reach and serve the interests of the people of Kenya. So the people of Kenya does not have to pay for what did not benefit them or what benefited a few clique or powerful individuals. So I think that's the discussion that's currently continue to go on, but there's no consensus so far. But what I can say is that the Auditor General, which is a constitutional office, which is publicly funded, and again, it's a credible office, has declared that we do not have a public debt. So it's a discussion that I think in the coming days and months and years will really pick up and we'll see where it lands.
Finally, Gordon, before we let you go, just how safe are the streets of Nairobi, or certainly any streets in Kenya at the moment? You've obviously talked about the lives that have lost, and you suggest that there may be as many as 13 in Nairobi and around the country where the protests are taking place.
The streets are pretty safe. I walked around the streets of Nairobi. When there are no protests, there's general safety and calmness. Everybody's going about their businesses. There's nothing. You walk and you feel safe. You don't need protection. Don't need to be anxious. Don't need to be on your heels. But when these protests, the protests have been called, then you really need to replan your safety, your travels, you're moving, you're going to work or something. In fact, most companies are advising to work from home whenever the call for protests are made. But currently, if there are no protests, then it is safe to live and to do anything, not just in Nairobi, but every other part of the country.
Gorden Osen, appreciate your time today.
Thank you, sir.
Gorden Osen, Kenyan journalist, speaking to us from Nairobi, Kenya, around these protests and demonstrations that have taken place in that country, killing as many as 13 people, according to the reports that we've received.